Why do we feel an intense attraction precisely to that which we know can hurt us? It seems paradoxical. We seek what causes us pain, yet this attraction is not random. Every desire carries hidden layers of our emotional history, old wounds that have yet to be acknowledged or healed. Often, we believe what we feel is simply passion or physical attraction, but in reality, it reflects the wounds we have carried since early on. When we allow ourselves to look deeper, we realize that our romantic impulses often lead us to confront parts of ourselves that still need attention. Imagine that every person who crosses our path is a mirror, not only reflecting who we are, but projecting what remains hidden, buried, or wounded within our own soul. What seems irresistible, magical, and necessary often reveals an echo of the past, an old trauma seeking resolution. Feeling drawn to someone who unconsciously awakens our wounds is a sign that there is something within us that needs understanding. Intense desire acts as a light, illuminating our inner shadows, even when at first we perceive only the surface of charm and passion. Many times we believe that love is a rational choice, a feeling we can control. Yet in practice, it reveals itself as a deeply unconscious phenomenon. People and situations that attract us almost irrationally often replicate patterns of pain we already know. An old trauma, an unresolved insecurity, or an emotional lack can lead us, without our awareness, into relationships that trigger those wounds. What once seemed like mere desire transforms into a mirror challenging us to look inward. When we observe our emotional patterns, we notice inevitable repetitions. The person who fascinates and hurts us often brings to the surface experiences similar to others we have already lived. Our unconscious acts as a guide, telling us, here is something that needs healing. If we surrender blindly to attraction, we risk reliving old dramas. But if we look with attention and awareness, that intensity becomes opportunity. What seemed like a trap turns into a mirror of self-knowledge. The paradox of desire also reveals itself in subtler lessons. The greater the intensity of simultaneous attraction and pain, the greater the opportunity for growth. What appears to be mere chemistry or impulse is, in truth, a chance to recognize emotional patterns, observe our fears, and understand our deepest needs. Thus, intense desire ceases to be a burden or threat and becomes a tool for introspection. Every sigh, every fascination, every feeling of rapture carries a message inviting us to look within. In the end, intense attraction is not an enemy. It functions as an alert, showing what still needs care, acceptance, and understanding. Love that seems to paralyze the body and ignite the soul is not just passion. It reflects a need for healing. Every impulse, every attraction, every intense connection is an opportunity to understand ourselves and transform patterns of suffering into emotional learning. Intensity stops being a trap and becomes a mirror of self-knowledge. When we reflect on our romantic choices, we realize that we are often drawn to people who mirror unresolved traumas. What seduces us strongly may, in fact, be a reflection of our vulnerability. From childhood, experiences of abandonment, rejection, or lack of affection shape how we relate to others. These traumas leave invisible marks, and when someone appears who triggers those memories, we feel an almost magnetic attraction, even if it hurts us. Intense attraction acts as an unconscious repetition. Our brain seeks to reenact past experiences in an attempt to find resolution or understanding. The reflection of an old wound in the person who attracts us can be subtle, often imperceptible at first glance. It might be a gesture, a word, an attitude that touches exactly where we still feel pain. What seems charming, fascinating, or irresistible often activates memories of rejection, fear, or emotional deprivation. It's as if we are invited to revisit unresolved emotional experiences. The more we ignore these signals, the more likely we are to get lost in repetitive patterns of suffering. It's important to understand that this process is no one's fault. Neither the person who triggers the intense attraction nor ourselves are to blame. It is an unconscious dynamic, a reflection of our emotional history in our current choices. What seemed coincidence or fate is, in reality, an invitation to look inward. Every overwhelming passion contains hidden lessons. It challenges us to recognize our wounds and transform our emotional responses. When we manage to perceive these wounds, the dynamic changes. Attraction ceases to be a prison and becomes an opportunity for healing. Instead of being consumed by impulse, we begin to observe our patterns, understand our motivations, and consciously choose our relationships. Intensity stops being a threat and becomes a tool for self-knowledge. Old wounds may lead us to seek approval, attention, or love excessively, often ignoring warning signs. Intense attraction functions as a test. It shows us what has not yet been. Integrated challenges us to discern between desire and emotional need and offers an opportunity for growth. When we face these experiences with awareness, every relationship becomes an opportunity for evolution rather than repetition of pain. The cycle repeats until we learn to recognize our internal signals. The more aware we are of the wounds driving us, the freer we are to choose relationships that nurture rather than destroy. Love ceases to reflect trauma and becomes an expression of self-awareness. The more we explore our emotions, the more capable we are of experiencing deep, healthy connections. Intense attraction, when understood, teaches us about ourselves. Every person who awakens fascination or deep desire carries lessons about our fears, insecurities, and unmet needs. What once seemed a trap is revealed as a path to transformation. Love stops hurting and begins to illuminate. Desire stops imprisoning and awakens awareness. The unconscious plays a central role in how we fall in love. Often we believe we love or desire rationally, yet much of our emotional choices occur automatically, without notice. Old traumas, abandonment patterns, emotional deprivation, or childhood rejection deeply influence our perception of attraction. People and situations that seduce us intensely may simply be activating unresolved emotional memories, repeating patterns that, if not understood, lead us to relive suffering. When we feel intense desire, it's as if we are guided by an invisible map, traced by past experiences. What seems irrational, impulsive, or out of control is in reality a reflection of unconscious processes seeking resolution. It's fascinating to notice that our romantic choices are often unconscious attempts to heal old wounds, even if they lead us into painful experiences. The unconscious acts as a silent teacher. It sends us signals through desires, passions, and intense fascination, yet we don't always decipher them. When we don't understand these signals, we repeat patterns and hurt ourselves unknowingly. But when we observe carefully, every attraction becomes an opportunity for self-knowledge. We learn to identify emotional triggers, understand our responses, and act with awareness. A common example is the search for people who somehow remind us of important figures from childhood, like parents or caregivers. That memory may be positive or negative, but it always carries emotional weight. Intense attraction arises as an attempt to rewrite past experiences to seek emotional repair. It's almost as if the heart says, here is something to understand, heal, and integrate. The danger lies in not recognizing these patterns. Without awareness, we can repeat painful relationships, relive traumas, and feel like victims of our own emotions. But the great opportunity lies in using intense attraction as a tool for self-knowledge. When we understand that deep desire reflects old wounds, we can consciously choose. What once seemed cruel fate transforms into emotional growth opportunity. By integrating an understanding of the unconscious, our love life transforms. What once was impulse and repetition becomes conscious choice. Love stops hurting and becomes a teacher. Desire stops imprisoning and awakens awareness. Every relationship, every intense attraction, every emotional impulse becomes an opportunity to heal old wounds and create healthy, profound relationships. The love we feel so overwhelmingly may in fact reflect our own wounds. Often, what intensely attracts us in another person is not only charm, chemistry, or compatibility, but a mirror of old traumas we still carry. It's as if our unconscious mind says, if you face this experience, you may understand and heal this wound. That's why people who awaken intense passions can hurt us as much as they fascinate us. They activate painful memories and unresolved feelings, challenging us to look within ourselves. When we allow ourselves to perceive this dynamic, we understand that attraction is not random or coincidental. It is a reflection of what still needs emotional integration. What once seemed mere passion becomes an opportunity for growth. Every glance, every gesture, every word from the person who fascinates us intensely can be interpreted as a message from our unconscious, revealing emotional patterns that require attention. Ignoring these signals risks repeating cycles of pain and frustration, but observing with awareness transforms the experience into deep learning. The fascination we feel is often accompanied by a mix of pleasure and fear. The intensity of attraction both paralyzes and excites, while awakening insecurities and old wounds. This paradox is one of the clearest signs that the love we feel reflects both desire and a mirror of pain. Understanding this dynamic requires courage to face our vulnerabilities and to perceive that what we desire is often precisely what challenges us to grow. Moreover, attraction to someone who can hurt us teaches us about emotional boundaries. It forces us to identify how far we are willing to compromise, how our needs and values can be preserved, and where healthy limits must be set. Every intense experience becomes, therefore, a lesson in self-awareness and self-love. Passion ceases to be mere uncontrolled emotion and becomes an internal guide, showing what needs care and attention. When we integrate this perception, our love life changes profoundly. We recognize that what fascinates us won't always make us happy, but every intense attraction has value if we learn to interpret its messages. Love ceases to be a field of pain and transforms into an opportunity for transformation. Desire stops imprisoning and awakens awareness. The person who once seemed only charm becomes a mirror of self-knowledge and emotional growth. The key to not being a victim of desire that hurts us lies in emotional awareness. Every intense attraction we feel is an invitation to look inward, understand patterns, and integrate past experiences. What seems irrational or risky is, in reality, an opportunity for transformation. Recognizing that our romantic impulses reflect old wounds allows us to consciously choose our relationships, making them healthier and more enriching. Transforming desire into self-knowledge requires practice and observation. It's necessary to ask, what does this attraction reveal about me? Which wound is being activated? By answering these questions, we discover that every intense fascination contains deep lessons. It's not only about avoiding pain, but understanding the origin of what attracts us, discerning between desire and emotional need, and cultivating conscious, nurturing relationships. The transformation process involves patience and courage. Dealing with the intensity of our feelings is not always easy, especially when confronting old fears or painful emotional patterns. But it is in that confrontation where true growth lies. Every intense attraction that challenges us is a chance to integrate our emotional history, understand our impulses, and transform experiences of pain into wisdom. Additionally, awareness of desire helps us develop empathy and compassion. When we understand that what attracts us reflects old wounds, we also become more capable of recognizing the emotional complexity of others. This transforms the way we relate, making our connections deeper, more conscious, and meaningful. Love ceases to be blind impulse and becomes an expression of emotional maturity. Finally, by integrating this perception, we understand that what seemed like cruel fate or impossible passion is, in reality, an opportunity for healing and self-knowledge. Love that paralyzes the body and ignites the soul ceases to be a threat and becomes a teacher. Every desire, every intense attraction, every deep fascination becomes a path to understand our emotions, recognize our wounds, and create healthier, more conscious relationships. In this way, the paradox of desire that hurts us is revealed as an opportunity for transformation, showing that loving and growing are inseparable experiences.